Is it okay now?
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have the floor, Dr. Dzesse.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening to this, you're attending this meeting. Donc, je vais déjà d'emblée remercier l'organisation pour l'honneur que vous me faites de pouvoir partager. S'il vous plaît, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Ok. Donc, merci déjà pour l'invitation et bon, c'est un échange, hein. C'est un échange dans lequel nous allons partager l'expérience acquise au fil des années. Donc, ce que je vais partager, c'est les résultats ou alors les fruits ou les stratégies que j'ai personnellement mis sur pied et qui m'ont aidé à développer, à pouvoir sécuriser un certain nombre d'opportunités en tant que chercheur ou alors scientifique en début de carrière. Bon, comme l'a si bien dit la modératrice, nous allons interagir tantôt en anglais, tantôt en français. Donc, sentez-vous libre. Sentez-vous libre de pouvoir intervenir, que ce soit en français ou en anglais. Donc, le téléphone sur lequel je suis connecté ne me permet pas d'ouvrir ma caméra. Donc, je suis vraiment désolée pour ça. Donc, j'espère que ça ne va pas causer de soucis. Donc, pour aller dans le vif du sujet, donc, I'm going to present securing research funding as an early career scientist. Can you move to next slide, please? Yeah, so this is the outline that I follow for my presentation. Next slide, please. Yeah, so talking about myself, I'm Christelle Dzesse. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Ongola, especially the School of Chemical Engineering and Mineral Industries, specialized in the field of, as a chemist, and especially in the field of materials chemistry. So I'm an alumni of various fellowships, including the O.S.C, the Expo, the Technimen, to name but a few. And I'm currently a postdoctoral research fellow with the Vega Foundation, where my research proposal is about designing porous compounds known as metal-organic frameworks, which are going to use as a drug carrier for cancer therapy. I'm also a role model, meaning and young girls. And last but not the least, I belong to different organizations, scientific organizations, such as the O.S.C, Account, the O.S.C, guys, ACS to me, but a few. Next slide, please. Okay. So coming to the topic of the day, I will be presenting on three subtopics. So the first one is how to find and how to apply for said grant. So, the topic is addressed specifically to early career scientists. So, before moving to the topic, we'll try to, understand what we mean by an early career scientist. So, typically, it's someone who is in their the initial stage of their career, be it academic or research career. And this definition can also vary by institution or by funding body, and generally includes individuals that have completed their PhD within a certain period of time. And usually, many organizations go up to 10 years after your PhD. So, up to 10 years after your PhD, you can still qualify, you can still be called as an early career scientist. So, someone also working in a postdoctoral position or as a junior faculty can also be can also be considered as an early career scientist, or even someone in the process of establishing themselves as an independent researcher can also be called an independent and an early career scientist. And most of the time, the early career scientists are still developing their own research. They seek directions and they require mentorship and sponsor in navigating funding. They also need to build collaboration because during their PhD, they're most of the time connected to their supervisor. So after that stage, they need to build their own collaboration and to publish their work on their own. Next slide, please. So, most of the time, as I mentioned before, during the PhD stage, we rely on the supervisor, and most of the the facilities that we use were like acquired by the supervisor. And once we move to the stage of early career scientists, we need to become independent. And in order to do that, we need to identify some opportunities then that can allow us to establish ourselves as such. And there are so many opportunities out there that are especially made for early career scientists. And where can we find them? Where can we find them? We can find them in funding portals. So some institutions provide databases with a list of grant opportunities. And some of the examples can include the Wellcome Trust. So if you go on their website, you may find a lot of information about opportunities that can be available. We also have ENDO, especially for those in the field of life science. We have the National Institute of Health. This is the US-based organization, as well as the National Science Foundation. So they provide opportunities, especially in the domain of health. We also have the African Academy of Science, which provide research opportunities, especially for Africans. And the foundations, we also have foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates, which many of us know, which focuses specifically on research in health domain. And we can also name the Mega Foundation, which provide opportunities specifically for women in the developing countries. So, as example of specific funding opportunities, we can have the Marie Curie Slodoga, which I'm sure many of us know. We also have the Alexander von Humboldt which is sponsored by the German government. You can name the Tech Women program, which is sponsored by the US Department of State. And I'm also sure many of us know about the TWAS fellowships. There are so many of them. So many of them, I mean, most of them can take us to developing countries where we can have opportunity to do some perform some research and to establish collaboration. So we also have the O.S.C Early Career Fellowship. I'm glad that we have an old fellow and we have a fellow of this fellowship in our midst, and she may tell us more about this. And as I mentioned before, we have the Schumberger Fellowships, so which sponsors specifically women from developing countries, so be it at the doctoral or the postdoctoral stage of their career. Next slide, please. So how can you find these opportunities? So we said we can get them on the funding portals. So we can also get them by using our professional network. So as scientists, we have the possibility to belong to learning societies in our different fields. So someone like me who's a chemist, can belong to the American Chemical Society. There's also the Royal Society of Chemistry. And for those in the field of biochemistry, you can have the International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. You can have the Society for Experimental Biology. And this is a more general organization or learning society, the American Association of Advancement of Science. So as a scientist, we have to belong, we should belong to such organizations because they share opportunities for their members, and to benefit from these opportunities, benefit from this funding, you need to be a member. So I would like to use to seize this opportunity to encourage each and everyone to try and adhere to one of these organizations. Make sure that so that you can be able to benefit from their fellowship. So you can also have these opportunities through professional social media, such as LinkedIn, Twitter, or even research network like ResearchGate, where we can receive some grant announcement and application tips. So I don't know of those who are here. I don't know how many of us have a LinkedIn profile or a Twitter account. Can you simply raise your hand, please? Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, I can see Philip. So does that mean Philip is the only one? Philip is the only one having the LinkedIn profile or a Twitter account or even a ResearchGate?
We
Okay.
do have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I really encourage us, to have a profile, to have an account on such platforms, and try as much as we can, to follow renowned scientists in our field. And even, people we think or believe can share important information. Those are some platforms where we can also get this funding opportunity. Renowned scientists, and even preparing your application. You need to make sure that you have a strong application. So having a strong application means preparing long enough. I know most of the time, many of us will wait for the last 5 minutes, to start running up and down, to make sure that we submit our application. Yes, it is good to submit, But before submitting, it's also important to make sure that the application that we send out is a strong one. It's an application that stands out among others. Remember, there are many applicants around the world who are looking for the same opportunity. And specifically in Cameroon, I don't know if all of us are from Cameroon, but specifically in Cameroon, you know the challenges that we have with, especially with electricity. We have challenges with internet. So you don't know what will happen. Like if you wait for the last 5 minutes, you don't know what will happen. So you may end up like not being able to submit your application because there's no power, or maybe because internet is poor. And those are the things that those are the things I strongly believe you could like you could avoid by doing things early enough and working on your application in a progressive way, not waiting for the last 5 minutes. You also need to secure recommendation letters. Most of these applications, for most of these opportunities, you need to have strong recommendation letters. And if you plan ahead, if you plan early enough, you will be able, to reach out to people you believe can provide such recommendation letters to you, and to let them know early enough that okay, I am interested in this opportunity and I would like to apply. So will you be able to provide recommendation letter? So doing this work early enough gives you the opportunity, to be able to reach out to anyone, to a different person. If the first person you look for, you identify, is not available, you know. And most of the time, what I personally do is that I reach out to the person early enough and let them know. I'll be very grateful if they can provide a recommendation letter for me. And in our system, people are not always people may not always be available. So one of the things I usually do is I'll sit myself and write the recommendation letter with the word I would like to see, and with information I strongly believe can make my recommendation letter be a strong one. So that's something you can also do, and then you just give it to the person, and the person signs it. If the person has to sign it and give it back to you, or you forward it to the person, and if they have to send it to the system, application system, then they simply do it. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. So it's also important, to stay organized with deadlines and criteria. So when you see an opportunity that seems to be interesting, don't just rush, don't just rush and apply for it. The first thing you need to make sure is that you fulfill all the requirements. Yeah. So it is a must to fulfill all the requirements. If you believe there's a requirement which you don't fulfill, one of the things you can do is to reach out to the funder and find out, because sometimes some of these criteria are flexible. Yeah, some of these criteria are flexible. For example, they may say that you can apply. The opportunity is for those who have whose PhD maybe is 2 years old. And most of the time, I know women have the career breaks because of maternity leaves. So you can reach out to the funders, for example, and present your specific case. So this is my case. Maybe I got a 1 year or 2 year break because of maternity leave, and can I still apply? Can that be considered? I mean, some of these organizations, they take into consideration the fact that women can have a career break, and that's why they give them more time. And sometimes some of these criteria can become flexible to them. Yeah. So make sure you track the deadline. So if you are given 2 months to work on your application, don't wait when it's remaining 2 weeks to start working on this. Start working on your application as soon as you know it has been launched. And to know that an application has been launched, what I usually recommend is that, like, apart from signing, apart from following people on social media, professional social media, what another thing which you can do is to sign up for newsletter, you know, for newsletter of these funding bodies, because they have newsletters which when you sign up for it, you can be aware of the opportunities they have, or if they share other opportunities on their platform, you can be aware of it, and that's how you can see, so you can apply, you can be aware that the opportunities are, such opportunities have been launched, and start preparing for your application. So apart from that, you also need, to break down your application into different stages. So once the application is launched, try to identify what do you need to make sure that your application is complete. So identify those different stages, you know, draft them, take your time to edit, obtain the reference letter, and before you submit, please always make sure that you have someone that can read for you. Sometimes you may be thinking that what I wrote, I mean, it's very special or it's very impressive. But with a different eye, someone may see that I mean, what you said could be said in a different way, which is much more interesting. Or maybe even, sometimes you write with mistake. So if you let someone else have an eye on your application, that can also help, to make sure the application is strong enough. So most of the time, when we apply for opportunities, we have rejection. So rejection should not come to break us. I always say that when you have a rejection, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. I mean, that's an opportunity which you use, to learn on your mistakes and to make sure that you come back with a stronger application. So when you have a rejection, try to understand, like, what were the aspects on which I didn't provide the answers that the reviewers were expecting, and also try to seek feedback from this funder. I know most of the time they don't provide the individual feedback because of the number of of applicants, which is usually very high. So most of the time, it's advisable, to look at the frequently asked questions, where uh, there are common questions that come most of the time, for which they have provided answers. So if you go back there, you can get some information that can help you to understand why your application was rejected. And when you also have a rejection, also make sure that you improve your work on your skills and to improve it. Because if you submit an application 2 years consecutively, and maybe the funding body realizes that the application is sent last year, and the application you sent this year are exactly the same. That is, there's no improvement. There's nothing that has improved. I mean, that's not. It doesn't give a good impression of you. It doesn't make it doesn't make of you someone that is serious with what they want. Because I mean, you should have been able to use that period, to work on yourself, to improve on your skills, and to make sure that some of the aspects or some of the things that you were not able to do last time, that you were not able to understand in a proper way, that you have improved on those aspects. So use your rejection as a learning opportunity. Work harder on your application, revise it, let other people read it, and then resubmit it to make sure that you have a strong application, an application that turn out. Next slide, please. So this said, I'm going now to move on the second point of my presentation. which talks about tips on writing a winning grant proposal. So it's very important, it's very important to submit, to identify an opportunity. But if you identify an opportunity, one thing which is very important, is to make sure that you have an interesting grant proposal. And having an interesting grant proposal doesn't just mean, doesn't just mean a proposal with a research which is innovative enough. I think we mentioned this before. So you need to provide an application with a proposal that aligns with the vision of the funders. Yeah, we said it. We said it. I said it. I said it before because they are the one funding. They are the one funding, and they seek something that falls with their vision. And proposal is like it's like the heart of your application. So make sure you submit a proposal that aligns with their vision, a proposal that meets their objective. And this is why you need to define research question and objective in a clear way. So you need to stay focused and have specific objective that addresses the priority of the funder. And most of the time we use jargon, we use language which is specific to our discipline. But one thing that we should be aware of is that most of the time the reviewers are not necessarily from our research field. So by using jargon, it may be complicated, you may be making things more difficult for you. And if they don't understand what you're talking about, if they don't understand what you would like to do, if they don't understand where you are taking them, then what will follow is that the application will simply be rejected. So as much as possible, try and use layman language in such a way that even someone not from your field is not is able to understand what you're talking about. And sometimes it even recommended to speak to people like to speak to children or even to your grandparents who are not educated person, you know, and try to understand. Try to explain in few words with words as simple as possible to them what your proposal is all about. And if they are able to understand, then be sure that the reviewers will also be able to understand. So you also need to make a proposal which is impactful. You know, uh, you should be able to emphasize the significance of your work. What is it going to bring? What is the problem that it's going to solve? What scientific gap are you covering? And this is where preliminary data or preliminary work is very important because that helps you to understand what has been done and what is the gap which you would like to cover and to present it in a better way. And you should also be able to try, to explain the broader implication or societal benefits of your project. So the project you are working on, what is it going to bring to the science? What are the benefits for your community in a specific way? Those are the answers that your proposal should be able to answer. Next slide, please. Yes. So as I was saying, you need to highlight your preliminary data. So this can be maybe a work that you personally did before. So you can rely on it, to move on and explain what needs to be improved to make the work a better one. And if you don't have preliminary data from yourself, then you can rely on the literature review, on work done by others to show what has been done and what needs to be done again. And this is very important because it's going to show to the funders how viable your project is, and to demonstrate that it is also achievable. Because before funding a project, they need to make sure that it is realistic. They need to make sure that it is achievable, and you need to provide evidence that your proposal, your project, the project you are applying with meets those criteria. So you also need to make sure that your project is well designed. Yeah. So you need to provide a proposal with a clear, structured methodology, and to make sure that it is something that reviewers can easily understand or follow while they are reading your application. Remember, when they are reading your application, you are not there. Yeah. And as much as possible, try to outline the different steps, the resources, the timeline, and even the partnership that you're going to make use of to ensure that your project is feasible. Next slide, please. So before after all other things, you need to build a strong team and partnerships, because when you have partnerships, when you have collaboration, you can be able to demonstrate that your project is feasible, especially when your project is a multidisciplinary one. And make also sure that that you in your proposal you present the different collaborations that you have, and whose expertise will be needed in your proposal. That also helps strengthen your proposal. Your budget should also be realistic. Make sure that the budget you present meets all the different aspects you would like to cover, and provide a strong justification. And don't try to go beyond the project that the funding is giving you. That's something that can also cause rejection. Next slide, please. So as much as you can, try to avoid complex language. We said this before. We said this already. Try to be clear, concise, and use an accessible language. And yeah, we said it before. Said it already. Make sure you tailor your proposal to specific funder. So most of the time, we use the same proposal for different funding bodies. So before doing that, make sure that for each funding body, you tailor your program in such a way that the proposal that you tailor your proposal in such a way that its content aligns with the vision of the funding body for which you would like to send it. Next slide, please. And then also try to provide. I know in our environment, most of the time we don't want people to look to read our application or to read our proposal, because we think that people may steal our idea. But it's important, to identify people you really trust, and to give your proposal to them, so that they take time to read and make sure that everything is okay. And at the end of the proposal, make sure that you provide a strong conclusion with the expected outcome. Never leave your proposal without providing the outcomes. So this is very important. We are now going to move to the common challenges that early career scientists face. Next slide, please. So I've been able to identify a few of them based on my personal experience. So most of the time in our community, in our environment, uh, early career scientists, the limitations we face include no local funding. So there are very few of them, or even not. Someone like me, I remember in my field, I don't know of any funding available for chemists in Cameroon. So that's a challenge that many of us face, and that's why we need to seek global organizations, global agencies that fund researchers in lower income countries, and to make sure that we prepare strong applications. So some of these organizations include the African Academy of Science, or TWAS, who provide capacity building funding. We can also consider applying for small grants, small grants and fellowships, such as those offered by the O.S.C. So maybe this might be maybe at the early at the PhD level, but there's also the Agnes, and there are many others. We can cite the Matumai. We can cite, in fact, there are many of them. There are many small grants, 3 month grants, which we can seek to go and seek and look and acquire a certain expertise before we can start targeting larger grants. So another challenge we face is the limitation in terms of research infrastructure. So it's difficult sometimes, to have access to some lab equipment or software. Next slide, please. But this should not, this should not stop us to have, this should not stop us, to dream big. And that's why it's important, to try and look for international collaborations with universities or research institutions that can help us, to have access to some of the resources which we are unable to find while at home. We can also try to seek for funding for grants such as the International Foundation in Science, which help to support which support in acquiring infrastructure at home. So those who have been able to secure this grant, they know what I'm talking about. This helps them, to get some infrastructures which they couldn't have been able to get otherwise. So, as another challenge faced by early career scientists is the difficulty in building a global network, because most of the time, we have limited exposure. We have limited exposure. During our PhD, we were mostly focused on research lab, on research work, and sometimes our supervisor they didn't even encourage us, to attend conferences, because I strongly believe that's a platform where you can also one can also get what can one can network with other researchers, first of all in your community, in your university, or within the country before going abroad, because most of the time we look for collaborators out of the country, while we don't even know those in our domain in Cameroon, which is not good, because connecting with those people can also help us. They can also connect us with their network outside there. So it's very important to know those of the researchers in our research field. So another thing which we can do, to overcome this challenge is to join international scientific societies. I mentioned this before, and I encourage us to join societies. It's also important to attend the virtual conferences. I know sometimes we might be limited by funding to travel and attend these conferences. But during the COVID period, we were able to see that even without traveling, we can still be able to get knowledge through the virtual platform that was set. And also joining the international societies. That's also an opportunity where we can get travel grants that can allow us to attend conferences. I've personally been able to get many travel grants that allowed me to attend international conferences, which I wouldn't have been able to attend otherwise. And we should also be able to look for opportunities where opportunities that allow where we are able to network with others. There are many of them globally. Next slide, please. Yeah, another limitation is the training in grant writing and proposal development. So most of the time, we don't know how to write a grant proposal, because when we get into when we enter get into the PhD stage, sometimes even the supervisor themselves they don't know how to draft a good proposal, or we are just given a proposal and told to work on it. So this is a challenge, because when we move after the PhD, we need to become independent, and those are the things that we need to master, because opportunities out there. We need to apply for opportunities out there. We need to make sure that we have skills when it comes to writing a strong proposal. And how can we get such skills? I mean, there are. I mean, we can get such skills by joining workshops or webinars that focus on grant writing skills. We can also there are also courses on Coursera online. Some of them are free, which we can be able to attend and make sure that we acquire such knowledge. And if we are members of if you are a member of learning societies, they sometimes also share on such topics. So another challenge is financial constraint. So after a PhD, you don't have any funding, but you would like to continue your research. And most of the time, there are some topics, that are high cost, that are highly cost. You need to have a lot of money to be able to perform research in such field. So I take my case for instance. I was not able to pursue my field, my research after my PhD personally because I didn't have what it takes to do so, and that's why we need to look for opportunities that can help us to do so. So what I can recommend is to start working on a small scale project. So you can still remain connected with your PhD supervisor, and while you're working on small scale projects, and try looking for other opportunities for financial support that can help you, to expand your work. Next slide, please. Yeah. So yeah, we mentioned financial constraint, and we said what can be the strategies that can be put in place to make sure that research continues after the PhD stage. And we also need, one of the challenges we face is that some of the bodies, some of the funding bodies globally I mean, they give priorities to issues that are not, that may not align with our local research needs, and we need to adjust. We need to adjust. We need to adjust and to make sure that our local challenges align with the global priorities of these bodies. To be able to make sure that we can be able to secure a grant from them. Time management is also a challenge because most of the time it's not easy. Like when you have numerous tasks, you have to teach, you have to do research, you have to math feed, you have to write grant proposal. I mean, there are so many things, and for some of us, you have a family to manage. So you need to balance. These different activities and make sure that you manage your time properly and set aside dedicate a time to prepare your grant application. And usually, don't wait when an opportunity is launched before you start writing your proposal. If you can write a different proposal with different research ideas, do that, and just put your proposal aside. And whenever there's an opportunity, you can simply take it and try and refine it to make sure that it aligns with the founder's vision, and then use it to move on with your application. Next slide, please. So, as a take-home message, I would like to say that to secure a research funding as an early career scientist requires different steps. So we need to be proactive in with our network. We need to to have a strategic approach to identify these opportunities. We also need to persevere in face of the challenges because there are always numerous challenges. We need to work and make sure that we develop clear and compelling proposals before submitting them, and to build a supportive professional network that can help us to work on our application, and to be able to leverage all the available resources. We should also be able to remember that every application is an opportunity to refine our ideas and to strengthen our research narrative. So bringing us closer to achieving our long-term objective. So in this, I would like to close my presentation, and thank you very much for listening.
Prière de